All right, John, you're in charge of this one.
Guys, the Infinity Stones and the TVA, do they mean they're useless? What does become of the Avengers Endgame timeline and Infinity War for that matter? New Rockstars has the answer today. We're going to check out Loki, Infinity Stones explained, useless or secretly powerful? And before we hop into this, just remember to hit the like and subscribe to this channel with the notifications on to get notified whenever one of our videos is up, and subscribe to New Rockstars too while you're at it. Let's do this. Let's jump in.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and perhaps the most upsetting reveal in Loki Episode 1 was that Loki's glorious purpose of the Infinity Stones was only worth its weight in paperweight. The Infinity Stones weren't just Loki's obsession, they were the crucial namesake of Marvel's entire Infinity Saga. Sought after by Thanos, the Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Asgardians, and Sorcerers. Black Widow died and risked making her long-awaited solo film less relevant.
Nat died for nothing.
So did Iron Man and Thanos, Black Widow, Gamora, Vision, Sacred Timeline, Loki, Heimdall, and Loki's arm really die for nothing if the TVA has a drawer full of duplicate Infinity Stones sliding around loose with the silverware? No! I am here to tell you that these stones weren't just to rattle Loki's pride, and certainly not to make a joke out of the Infinity Saga, but as key symbols explaining how the TVA operates in relationship with the rest of the MCU. The first episode of Loki does such a good job reverting Loki's character development to that villainous pride and ambition that defined him back in the first Avengers film. Like, notice how immediately after scooping the Avengers and escaping to Mongolia, the first thing he does is to try to assert dominance to these random villagers.
I am Loki of Asgard.
Yeah, we've come so far with this guy.
I am burdened with glorious purpose.
These same words this guy had just uttered to Nick Fury when he arrived to steal the Tesseract.
I am Loki of Asgard, and I am burdened with glorious purpose.
But by the end of this episode, that pride is shattered when Loki scrambles to retrieve the Tesseract, only to realize that in the TVA, Infinity Stones are a dime a dozen.
How do you have these?
Oh, we actually got a lot of those. Yeah, some of the guys use them as paperweights. Some of them.
But notice how Loki briefly palms a time stone, perhaps the stone he was most eager to acquire someday. Remember that. And then Loki mopes.
Is this the greatest power in the universe?
And then B-15 rushes in and erases all of these stones inside Casey's evidence cart as Loki gives up his glorious purpose, but not out of respect of the TVA's illogical laws, but really out of acceptance that the Infinity Stones are not the key to his glorious future that he thought they would be.
Even an Infinity Stone is useless here. TVA is formidable.
See, that's the thing, is like that was the biggest comment I remember seeing on pretty much any of our Loki episode 1 related videos, you know, making them useless and pulling basically another Ralph Boner. I didn't even realize at the time that B-15 disintegrates the entire cart's worth of them. I feel like it's not all that hard to draw the connection of this simply means that the stones just don't mean anything to the TVA specifically.
No, if anything, it's a confirmation of the multiverse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because then, yeah, you have a different pocket of the world where the stones are super powerful, and we saw that in Avengers Endgame, and it's still the timeline that's supposed to play out, so it still has that importance, you know?
Yeah, I don't think it's powerless. I think it's more to do with the fact that it's kind of like, you know, when a certain animal is fighting in their own territory, they are the dominant one.
Yeah.
And within the TVA, the Infinity Stones are not as strong, but in a different territory, they are a complete, massive, universal threat.
Absolutely. It's a good metaphor.
As Loki asks, how did the TVA get these duplicate Infinity Stones? By Casey saying, we get a lot of these, I think he's saying they confiscated these from past detained variants. Like, notice how the other items in the drawer include a French Medal of Honor and the most valuable baseball card in the world, and U92 theorized that the Oklahoma Nexus event was someone trying to get rich off oil. So really, I think the idea is that Infinity Stones are just one of many treasures that others before Loki have skewed from their sacred timeline to try to obtain. Now, before, the Ancient Ones seemed to indicate that only Infinity Stone removal could create a branch timeline, but now, according to Miss Minutes, something as simple as checking in late to work could create a next event, which sounds nuts. And based on Rich Franklin Martin, it sounds like individuals making the wrong choice happens all the time with all kinds of people. And each time it happens, the timekeepers sound the alarm, the TVA swoops in, they detain the variant, they prune the branch, and they erase that variant. But I think that also means they keep whatever loot that variant was after. And after doing this countless times, duplicate Infinity Stones have piled up. But how can multiple Infinity Stones exist in the same time and space? Like, by the look of it, it looks like we had 5 Reality Stones in there. Well, according to everything we had been told about the Infinity Stones, they seem to be these sacred constants that embodied elemental aspects of the universe: power, space, reality, soul, time, and mind. Together, they maintained the proper flow of time. So much so that the Endgame directors had to clarify that when Thanos used the stones to destroy the stones were in fact atomized.
They were
So their
atomized, guys.
presence
They're
still
atomized.
exists in the universe, just incapable of being weaponized.
Spread out.
So that also means that when the Avengers returned from the time heist with those stolen Infinity Stones in the present, those stones were duplicates existing simultaneously in the present MCU with the atomized stone missed after Thanos' garden snap. So by that rule, multiple stone variants can coexist in a single place and
Yeah,
time,
good
so
call.
long as before too long those variants are returned.
See, that is pretty fascinating. That's pretty fun because, yeah, I hadn't even thought of that you have 2 sets of stones on just the main MCU timeline. You have, the stone dust, and then, whatever with their time travel mechanics of, okay, if we go back and we get the stones from different points, we're still having them in the future of our own progress. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of it that way, but that actually makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome, let's move on.
So, does that make the Infinity Stones worthless in the TVA? Yes, but
Yes.
outside the TVA, hell no. Because the TVA exists outside the sacred timeline. It's in the null time zone. The end credits actually suggest it could be in some in-between space
the
between
9
some of the
realms.
9 realms. Everything the TVA detains and brings inside the TVA are variants of a prime equivalent in the sacred timeline, which goes on undisturbed. So when the TVA arrested Loki variant L1130, there still existed the original Prime Loki in the sacred timeline, who went back with Thor to Asgard and went through the events of the Dark World and Ragnarok and Infinity War. But the moment this Loki picked up the Tesseract, he spawned a variant timeline, a variant Loki, a variant Tesseract. That didn't steal the Tesseract. or
Original
steal
still
the Loki
important.
in the sacred timeline. Those are still there. So when a variant Infinity Stones branch is pruned, the variant stone loses its power. Its glow fades a bit. But when the Avengers stole variant stones from the past, those stones kept their power because those branches had not yet been pruned by Cap. Meanwhile, each of the stones here in the drawer were variant duds from other previously pruned branches. But despite these being duds, those 6 Prime Infinity Stones remain in the sacred timeline, fully powered, waiting to be found and used by the Avengers and Thanos in the history we've seen, and then inevitably atomized by Thanos.
So it's
in the
just
sacred
multiple
timeline.
timelines.
So all of
Yeah.
the sacrifices made by the Avengers, made by Thanos, are still every bit as meaningful. And the effects those stone uses left on the world, still every bit as consequential. When Loki bemoans even an Infinity Stone is useless here, he's really using the stone as a metaphor for his own uselessness. But what Mobius is trying to get at is, this TVA confined powerlessness doesn't erase the other Loki in the sacred timeline. The reason why he makes Loki watch his favorite highlights is because there are lessons to be learned from that story. So the history of the Infinity Saga is not being erased by Loki, it's informing this next step. And the way that the TVA has to find a new purpose for variant
Exactly.
Infinity Stones, be it paperweights or lining fish tanks, despite not knowing what fish are, so too must variant Loki find a new glorious purpose. Meanwhile, let's remember Casey's words there.
Some of the guys use them as paperweights. Some of them.
Yeah, he's not just making a joke there. The end credits show a Mind Stone being used as a paperweight. So that also makes us wonder what he meant by some of them. Did someone else go rogue and use a variant Infinity Stone for some other purpose in the past? Theoretically, if you could track down one of these variant stones' source branch, and if that branch either wasn't fully pruned or if it were able to get reformed, that stone might reactivate if taken back to that branch. So let's keep in mind Loki fiddling with that time stone there. Now, it sounded like it clunked back down in the drawer. But if he might have slightly pocketed it before B-15 erased that cart, the way he pocketed Mobius's time twister so sneakily, that time stone might come in handy someday. Hey, you can support this channel by checking out our new Loki-inspired merch options, like the shirt Loki Out of
Dang.
Time, by going to newrockstarsmerch.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EAVoss. Follow New Rockstars and subscribe to New Rockstars for Loki breakdowns. Thanks for watching. Bye.
That's a great theory. If he is running around with a time stone, he might just try to alter his reality just with that stone alone.
Yeah, just keep it in his pocket until he finds the realm or variation where it's active and then go to town.
Wow, that's a
Yeah.
good call. It sounds like such a Loki thing to do.
Yeah, and it's a good long game because they've already got us sitting here going, oh, you know, we're arguing about if the stones are useless and whether or not they're tainting just the, you know, legacy of the story, when in actuality this could be a really great, you know, sneaky plan or something like that. Or it could come in clutch some other way, but it totally sets you up for not only a time stone, but you never know what else he might have swept from that drawer, you know?
That's true.
Yeah. That's pretty, it's got my mind working. All right, well guys, leave your thoughts down below. What do you think of this? Are you still upset? Do you still think that the timeline is tainted? Or did Eric Voss's masterful explanation make sense to you? Either way, hit that like button. Remember to subscribe, click the notification bell to get updated every time a video is out. Last but not least, let's do a Scuba Steve, you're up. I just want to say what's up to you. I hope you're doing well out in the East Coast, keeping it real, working with the people, helping lives get better. I don't know what this cadence or flow is. I wish that you were here so that I could actually hear your voice, man. We've never actually spoken, even though you send me lots of cool stuff. You've been one of our longest running patrons. I want a voice message from you, Steve. I want to hear your New York accent. I want you to like cuss me out or something like that, or you know, other things that are stereotypical of you know, the part of the country that you're in. Anyway, hope you're doing well, and we'll catch you next month. Much love.
Awesome.